the 18-story city hidden beneath a Turkish village. In 1963, a man in central Turkey knocked down a wall in his basement to make room for storage. Behind it was a passage. He followed it for several meters before he stopped and went to find a torch. What he had found was the entrance to a city carved 18 stories into the rock beneath his house, large enough to hide 20,000 people, with kitchens, schools, churches, livestock pens, and ventilation shafts that still drew clean air 1,600 years after they were cut. The city is called Derinkuyu. In Turkish, the word means deep well. The site is in Cappadocia, the volcanic plateau in central Anatolia. The rock here is tough, compressed volcanic ash that hardens on exposure to air but stays soft enough underground to be carved with iron tools. Cappadocian people had been digging cellars and pigeon cotes into this rock for thousands of years. Cave dwellings on the surface are tourist attractions today. But Derinkuyu is something else. The first 8 levels alone contain over 600 separate rooms, connected by stairways narrow enough that one person could block a passage. Andrea De Giorgi of Florida State University, who has surveyed the underground cities of Cappadocia, calls Derinkuyu not a refuge, but an inverted city, a complete municipal infrastructure built downward instead of outward. The discovery story is now near legend among Turkish archaeologists. The man who broke the wall in 1963 was not searching for anything. Accounts vary on whether he was widening a cellar or following a chicken that had fallen through a hole. Either way, the local archaeological service was alerted within weeks. Excavation began that year and continues in fits and starts into the 2020s. The lower levels are still being mapped. Of an estimated 18 levels, based on Turkish ground-penetrating radar surveys conducted in the 1990s, only 11 are open to the public, and the bottom 3 have never been fully cleared. The scale is what shocks first-time visitors. The standard tourist route descends about 60 meters below the surface, roughly the height of a 20-story building. At that depth, there are stone-cut storage rooms with niches still bearing the carbonized residue of grain stored 2,000 years ago. There are wells that go further down, drilled to reach an aquifer the inhabitants did not want shared with whoever lived above. There are ventilation shafts cut at sharp angles to the surface, designed so smoke from cooking fires would not exit visibly into the open air. There are stone doors, circular, weighing several hundred kilograms each, that rolled along grooves cut into the floor and could be locked into place from the inside, sealing entire levels off from intruders within seconds. Who built it is contested. The earliest credible date comes from the Phrygians, an Iron Age people who controlled central Anatolia from the 8th to the 7th century BC. Their tools and pottery have been found in Derinkuyu's upper levels. But several Turkish archaeologists, citing the layout of the deepest excavated chambers, argue for a Hittite origin around 1400 BC, 5 centuries earlier. The Byzantine Christians of the 5th to 10th centuries AD certainly expanded it. They added the cruciform-shaped chapel on the 7th level and used it to hide from Arab raids during the Caliphate's wars in Anatolia. Robert Ousterhout, the late American scholar of Byzantine Anatolia, wrote that Derinkuyu was occupied, abandoned, and reoccupied so many times across 2 millennia that no single phase can be called its origin. Each population inherited the work of the last and dug deeper. there is one detail that turns Derinkuyu from an isolated curiosity into something stranger. In 1969, a tunnel was found leading northwest out of the third level. It runs for 8 kilometers. At its other end is another underground city, Kaymaklı, comparable in scale and similarly carved into volcanic tuff. The two are connected by a single narrow passage, originally walkable end to end. Turkish surveys have since identified more than 200 underground complexes across the Cappadocian plateau. Most have not been excavated. Some are accessible only through narrow shafts in fields or behind stone walls in modern Turkish village houses. Whether Derinkuyu and Kaymaklı were nodes in a deliberate network, or whether populations across the region independently arrived at the same engineering solution to the same problem of hiding, is unresolved. The problem itself is at least partly known. Cappadocia sat for 2,000 years on the route between empires. Hittites, Phrygians, Persians, Macedonians, Romans, Byzantines, Arabs, Seljuks, Ottomans. Each wave of conquest brought taxation, conscription, religious persecution, or outright slaughter. Going underground meant disappearing for the days, weeks, or months it took an army to pass. The stone doors that locked Fro